In English, this fish is called a brown meager, but I like to use the Italian name, Corvina. They have a tendency to vanish without a trace, and I've never managed to spear one. That is all about to change. Last episode, we were in Cheshire and have now reached our furthest destination on this road trip, Bodrum, a popular tourist destination due to the crystal clean water, fantastic weather, lively nightlife, and plethora of restaurants. After a few days of relaxing and enjoying the area, we decided to get out for an afternoon freedive. Taking my big underwater camera, we were hoping to get some nice shots in the clean water. Not long after we set off, Hannah had spotted something. A painted coma fish is floating lifeless on the surface. These are a common sight in the Mediterranean, and we quickly worked out what had happened to it. A commercial net was strewn across the seabed. These indiscriminate nets catch all sorts of fish, and bycatch is simply discarded. I hate seeing these things underwater. Han has been practicing her duck dives all across this trip and was getting really smooth with them now. This large monolith was randomly on a bed of seagrass and had an unwanted visitor. These lionfish are an invasive species that have presumably come from the Suez Canal. They have no natural predators in the Mediterranean and eat all the native fish. I have seen them in droves around Greece. If I had my spear gun with me, I would have taken this one out. They are fantastic to eat raw. You just have to be careful handling them due to the poisonous spines. We eventually got to a small rock that came out of the water. One side had boulders gently sloping down, and the other side was much steeper. I knew it was going to be fishy. Shoals of 2-bar bream carpet the seafloor along this gentle slope. I had a drop off the edge to a plateau of sand around 18 meters, and there it was. A sizable Corvina out in the open and very chilled. As I got closer, it turned and headed for cover, which is exactly what every single other one I have seen does. Back down to these larger boulders at 20 meters, and once again, clouds of 2-bar bream. Something spooked, and 2 Corvina shot out in front of me. I knew exactly where I was going to go spearfishing over the coming days. May have overshot the sunrise a little bit, probably could have stayed in bed for another half an hour, but beautiful morning. I had a feeling I would see dentex in this area, so decided to start with my Orca inverted roller. I also had my 60cm spear gun on my float for hole hunting. These are the sort of conditions that are magic. Beautiful clean seas, it's flat, sun just rising behind me. So nice. This was my first proper dive after a few warm-ups on the swim out. Immediately I can see some dentex hanging around that rock in the distance. I thought these 2 were coming for a close look here, but alas, they turn and head out to deeper water. That's drop just there. I saw a shoal of really nice dentex out off this rock a little bit further out to my right, but they wouldn't come any closer. There was 2 small ones at the front that had a little bit more of an interest in me, but the big ones, I just saw the big flank, the big purple blue flank, and they
We're off down into the deep, so I'm going to try and work this edge a little bit more, but super nice diving, so fishy, just lots of things to look at, which is really good. Hopefully those big dead tags things that I'm interesting to look at as well.
After several more drops and no sign of the dentex, it was time to change tactics.
I haven't seen those dentex again, sadly. Normally you only get 1 or 2 opportunities at them, so I'm going to switch up tactics, get the small gun and start looking at holds, because I saw some Corvina on some previous dives. Hopefully I can find my first one of those.
I land exactly on the sand plateau from the other day. Bingo, but this is a really difficult shot going through the crack. I was absolutely gutted. I couldn't believe I had blown my opportunity yet again. I must have just grazed down the side of the Corvina and lost it. You don't get many second chances when spearfishing in the Med, but I wasn't taking no for an answer. I reloaded, breathed up on the surface, and headed back down. First, I checked around where I'd lost the fish to see if it was holed up.
First Corvina. What a relief to get a Corvina finally. In English we call this a corb or a brown meager, and I've stuffed up so many over the last 5-6 years in the Mediterranean. But today, finally, things came together. You just would not believe how quickly these things disappear into caves and cracks. You can watch them from the surface, then you dive, and then just seemingly disappear into thin air or thin water. I don't know what the saying is, but you know, you get it. Stoked.
After a few more dives without seeing any more Corvina, I decided to call it a session and get back for my morning coffee. After nearly 8 weeks on the road, our last night in Turkey had come.
Sad to see it go.
Our time here in Turkey has been incredible, but sadly it is our last night. But what a way to go out with this Corvina. I've never actually eaten one of these before. This is my first one that I've ever speared, but I've heard that they are one of the most tasty fish in the entirety of the Mediterranean. I'm going to keep this one very simple. I'm just going to gut it, gill it, scale it, and then cook it with some salt and local olive oil in the oven. And that is as complicated as I'm going to make this fish tonight. I ended up putting some lemons inside the fish because we had them and we have to use them up, because tomorrow we're driving 1,000 kilometers to Bulgaria from where we are now. We have to fuel up with dinner, and that is delicious, what I anticipate to be delicious Corvina. No wonder people are into that. I think that tastes a little bit like sweet like lobster. Would 100% take one of those again. No wonder people are into it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, for joining along on our epic adventure from London all the way here to Bodrum. We'll see you on the next leg in Bulgaria. Stay tuned.